Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our November book club. My name is Jo Bell, your host tonight, and I'm excited to get through the announcements quickly because I know this is going to be a phenomenal conversation tonight. So if you would indulge me and let me share my screen, I've got a little bit of information. Most of you I know have been on with us before. The book club is a pretty loyal group, so you understand all the scoop around who are you and speaker view and such. And also, hopefully, you're all getting our text on Tuesday afternoons. So if you're not, you can throw your cell phone number in the chat box and we'll send out a single text to you on Tuesdays to remind you that indeed it is Tuesday. It always helps me to remember what day it is personally. But also, let's pop through here. This is November. This has been a really interesting November. We finished our Human Sexuality in the Bible series, which is all up on YouTube and also all available on our Facebook page. We did a workshop on Giving Tuesday. I'll chat out more about that to remind you about Giving Tuesday in just a moment. We had one of the most enjoyable nights we've had in Sanctuary Online in a long time with the Steve Peters interview. So if you have not seen that, goodness, we've had more watches of the recording and comments on the recording and comments just period for having Steve on. He's just a blessing. And so if you're out and about and need something to do for an hour, we actually went for an hour and a half that night on the conversation. Then I turned off the recording. We want another half an hour. I had to put these people to bed. I'm like, okay, stop talking. Love you all. Go to bed. And then next week, we start our first week of Advent. So it is quite an interesting, we finish a series and begin a series and had a wonderful few nights in between. November was packed. So I know that you know that on November 30th is Giving Tuesday. It is Sanctuary's biggest fundraiser of the year. We will hit up you, I promise. Okay, so do a wonderful thing and find out what foundations you support and maybe communities of faith that are doing Giving Tuesday. And we will hit you up with some videos and some emails and such to remind you to be generous. It's a big weekend. You know, there's that whole thing called Thanksgiving, right? Then there's Black Friday, which starts, I think, sometime in August. And then there's Sunday, of course. And then Saturday is Small Business Saturday, right? So you're asked to go find a local business and support them. Really important, especially this year, because we can. And then Monday is Cyber Monday. Like every Monday isn't Cyber Monday and Cyber Tuesday and Cyber Wednesday. But it's about buying online. And then I know that's kind of comical when we should retire that one. And then Giving Tuesday is on that Tuesday. So it's a big, big weekend coming up. Now, even more important after that is Advent. That same night, November 30th, which is a Tuesday, which is Giving Tuesday, we will be beginning our Fire and Light series. And this is going to be a little bit similar to last year, meaning when you sign on for the evening, we're going to have first a person that's going to do a little candle lighting ceremony. And so we'll encourage you to have candles. You don't need to have actually your Advent wreath, but any candle will do. And we'll have people who are, we've asked to participate and do a little bit of what this means to me each week. Then we'll have a teaching. And as you can see in this, what's this called? This is a nice visual. There's a teaching each week. The first one on Judaism, on Hanukkah and the Festival of Lights. And then the next week is Hinduism and Buddhism, where we'll talk about the Festival of Lights, lighting the lamps for Diwali, and Loikathron, Festival of Floating Lamps in those two religions. And Islam on December 14th, week 3, which is the Festival of the Winter Solstice. And we'll close things up with Christianity. So those are the teaching pieces. And then each night is also, if you remember last year, we had somebody light a candle. We had about 50 minutes of a teaching piece. Then we spent a half an hour with a community topic. And once again, we're going to ask you to send in videos about that topic. And so next week is ornaments. So Cheryl, I should have shown our little video, our little
pictures,
cameo.
Right? You're not going to have them send in videos. You're going to have.
No, I would like a photograph of your favorite ornament.
That's what I mean, a photograph, but not a video. You said videos.
No, I said I was going to show us videos. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
We can talk about this later, can't we? She muted herself. Anyway, if you would, Cheryl's always right. I'd love you to send in photographs of your favorite ornaments or special ornaments. And then I will put a PowerPoint together and each of us will share. The second night is about favorite holiday traditions. So if you personally, maybe with the family that you have, the family you're creating with any friends, anything like that, a favorite holiday tradition, same thing, toss in a picture, a photograph of something that symbolizes that, or maybe a photograph. Jan, you guys did an amazing thing. Maybe not a holiday tradition, but you just did this amazing thing with your church and the poppies, right? You could send in a picture of that and then tell that story. Same idea. The third week is going to be acts of service. A lot of people get together on the holidays, either their families or their friends or their community of faith or a nonprofit they're a part of, do some kind of act of service to extend the wishes and generosity of the season. So that'll be the third week, December 14th. And then on Advent 4, which is December 21st, it's really your most memorable holiday. So that's what we're going to do in detail. And then we are taking the 28th off. Love you, but you have Tuesday night to yourself. Okay. So I would like to do this one thing here. I'm going to stop a share here. I'm going to start a new share. And it's all about Mr. Ken. Share the sound. Ready? Here you go. Tee this baby up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ken Martin. As a Christian, my favorite season of the year is Advent. But did you know that all of the major religions and major cultures of the world also have their own ways of celebrating the winter solstice and this season of the year? So this year at Sanctuary Online, our theme is Fire and Light, holiday symbols and celebrations from around the world. So we will be doing our tradition of lighting our beautiful Advent wreath here at Sanctuary in the Woods, but we will also be exploring the traditions and symbols of Hanukkah and Diwali and Loy Krathong and others as well. And just as we did last year, we will also be featuring your favorite ornaments, your favorite traditions, pictures of your favorite memories of this season. And this year we're also adding a feature. It's going to be sharing the ways in which we as individuals and families and communities are sharing our blessings by reaching out to the people who may be less fortunate than we are during this time of the year. So join us beginning November the 30th for Fire and Light, to learn about the symbols and colors and feasts and celebrations of this season around the world. Remember that all you have to do is tune in to sanctuaryonline.live, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, beginning November the 30th. I'm looking forward to celebrating this season with you. Thank you.
Nice.
Ta-da! Tell them what you tell them what you're gonna tell them, and tell them again, right? Here we go, my friends. Cheryl, I love this one slide because I am so impressed with you as a group, because you have read 100 books so far. Look at what you've done. Doesn't it make you guys feel accomplished? Maybe not.
It was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear
You got me to read. Yeah, you got me to read more than one book, so that's an accomplishment for me.
Thank you, Mandy, for allowing us to push you and challenge you in your personal development. All right. Love you guys. Cheryl, there, all yours.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. And I hope you all enjoyed this book. Hell, I don't even know where to start, other than to just say, what did you like about this book? Or start with that. And if you guys want to jump in and say something completely different, go for it. Nobody liked it.
Oh, no, I liked it. I just was aware of how, as a Canadian, you know, they always make a stupid reference to either moose or, I don't know, some cuckoo ski jacket or toques. So I knew that was going to be in there, but somewhere. But I realized how little I know of American politics. And so I was looking up stuff along the way in terms of, because I think we get a very different version in the news than what you guys get. I really do. So it was educational to me, but I was riveting. I marked down pages and underlined stuff. And so I really did like it. And I was determined I was going to finish it. So I did. I was happy.
Yeah.
How many
That's
people
cool.
believe that
Well,
this kind of stuff could be happening?
Oh, I believe it's
100%.
happening. I believe this is only the tip of the iceberg of the corruption and the lying and deception and behind the scenes back deals and the mole. Do you know what it reminded me of? Scandal. Did anybody see that series?
Yes.
I mean, it was pretty dark.
Or House
It
of
reminded me of
Cards.
Scandal.
House of Cards, that's worse.
Mhm.
Linda, did you feel the same way that Jane Ann did? Or do you feel like you're more, you know more about American politics?
Glenda? Who did you
Oh,
ask?
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Is that?
Yeah.
Cheryl, you're
Just
asking?
because she's Canadian.
Yeah, sorry. I won't say that I know more than Jane Ann knows about American politics. I do follow it quite closely. I spend about 4.5 months a year in the US, which, by the way, I'm leaving the day after tomorrow, and I didn't get a chance to finish the book, but I'm going to. So I felt that it was a possible story. I guess from what I know about all of the unspoken politics in the US, anything's possible. And they don't tell you anything anyway, so.
Was it Benghazi? Like I was trying to find what actual event it was based on, because it was too, the way she would comment
Yeah.
in terms of her own thoughts going through her head and then what she was saying, it felt, it was real.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree with that. And I also think that so many of the characters were identifiable in real
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so let's talk about who those characters were. Who did you think?
Well, I felt she was writing her own story. I thought it was Hillary to then up, but I felt it was Hillary penning Louise, giving credit to Louise for writing it, but I don't think she wrote 90% of it. Other than their friendship, the notes in the back I thought was very informative in terms of how the characters came to be. Betsy is her longstanding friend, and she lost a lot of these people right around 2019. So she really had, if she was writing it from a grief standpoint, there was a lot there.
Yeah.
So Betsy's her real friend from grade 6.
Yeah, you're talking about she's Louise's, right?
No, it's Hillary's friend from grade 6.
Oh, it's Hillary's best friend. Okay.
Yeah, and
Did anybody else read the notes at the back?
no, Hillary met her later. Wasn't her other friend? I didn't think she was friends with Hillary since grade 6. I had that the other way around too.
right, I was
Yeah.
thinking that Betsy was friends with Louise.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they were introduced to each other through through Betsy.
Just gonna look and check just a sec.
So
Keep
we
going.
watched a couple of interviews from the book coming out. There's a bunch of interviews with Hillary Clinton and Louise Penny, and
No, it was Betsy is Hillary. Hillary was running for president. It was July 2016, and her best friend Betsy gave an interview to a Chicago reporter about their relationship. And and among the things Betsy mentioned was their love of books, specifically crime novels, and that they'd been friends since grade 6.
Oh yeah. Betsy and Hillary were best friends, and then the author met Betsy,
Yes,
first, and then the
yes.
ultimate Hillary through Betsy.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's not what I thought
There
you
you
said
go.
before.
Okay, sorry. Edie, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I was just chiming in on that. But to me, I could kind of hear the difference. I could kind of hear where was the voice of Hillary Clinton and where was the voice of Louise Penny. But I thought for a dual authorship, they did a really great job. And I loved the little witty, the witty things that were in there. But so I was assigned to the Pentagon, and my job was executive support for Secretary of Defense and Deputy Secretary of Defense. And so I was kind of one of a phone answerer, luggage carrier, but at that same cabinet level. So the Secretary of State, and then the counterpart is the Secretary of Defense. And then because I was at that level, we had a lot of interactions with the State Department and the White House and some others. I actually had to do some courier stuff over to the White House during a blizzard because I had a 4-wheel drive Ford Explorer that I had to drive around to the back of the White House to do courier duty. But I mean, the point is that some of those things can't happen that quickly, but some of them can. And so everything rang fairly realistically to me, except the speed with which that was all happening. But something I learned.
What do you mean?
What's that?
What do you mean, for example, that was happening so fast?
Oh, so for example, like when you watch these action films or when you read a crime novel, it takes more than just picking up the phone and having my plane ready to go to Afghanistan with a special ops. I mean, it takes a little bit of preparation. At that level, they have people ready to go, but not on a moment's notice. Like it takes a whole aircraft, a crew. The aircraft has to be ready. It has to be fueled. It has to be pre-flighted. The crew has to be ready. They have to come off of their crew rest. Blah 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 blah. But
what about flying to a different place than they said?
Oh yeah, I'm all of that stuff. I'm sure they could get away with it. Unmarked aircraft and this and that.
Did anyone have any trouble following, remembering who the characters
Yes.
were?
Yeah, it was tricky.
I thought that was her state of mind, though. That, like, when you think of how many balls are in the air and how much they're bouncing, and it kept flashing back to the son, to the daughter, to the and Anna, whatever her name is. I just thought it was like bouncy, but that's the process that was going through her head at the same time. It felt very real to me. I did have to mark down pages to remind myself of who we were talking about, and then I catch up with them later, right? But yeah.
Actually, that's interesting because I did that right from the first page. I started seeing all these names. So I got a piece of paper out and I kind of did a family tree of who's names.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise I was going to get lost.
What a great idea.
Particularly with a lot of the foreign names, because that doesn't come first nature for me. So I'm going to
Yes.
write them down so I can really understand how to say the words as well.
Mhm.
Work well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who do we
And
think
even
Shaw
like you
is?
were saying, even the situations. I mean,
Yeah. It's like the
What?
situation room, right?
yeah, every situation they kept jumping back and forth and around. And I felt like that was part of keeping you in that state of terror, because it was
Yeah.
like every single time they jumped to something, it was a like a mini cliffhanger type of thing,
Yeah.
right? And then you jump to the next one, and then you couldn't put the book down because you wanted to go wait until what happened. When are they going to go back to that one? When are they going to go back to that one?
That's where I felt like Louise Penny's expertise came in on how do you keep your reader reading and turning the pages.
Yeah.
So it, like the storyline in one of the interviews we watched, basically they were batting back and forth, what would we write about? And then Louise Penny said, it finally occurred to me to ask Hillary, what keeps you up at night? And
Yeah.
so
She put it in a book.
so she put it in a book. And when I was working in the office of the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Defense was William Perry. It was not long after, not too long after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And one of the things he did was rounded up a whole bunch of loose nukes post-Soviet era, because the Soviets had them all over the former Warsaw Pact countries. And the former Warsaw Pact countries were like, we don't want them. You know, Ukraine was like, we don't want, take it, please. But, you know, the Russians couldn't afford to do anything with it. So that was an important mission. But it is chilling, you know, that at the end of the book, I'm skipping to the end already, but when her chief of staff comes in and they realize that they can't account for all kinds of stuff, that's pretty terrifying. And just to know that no matter the effort they put forth in the 90s, they can't have rounded everything up. So
Yeah.
so that was where the storyline came from, and why it is so terrifying, because it is quite possible, and we hope the secret squirrels are doing their jobs.
What was there not, correct me, because this is where I was trying to piece American history together, but didn't Bush have a big campaign about weapons of mass destruction, where had sent people into Iran to figure out whether they had or they didn't have? I mean, this is all nuclear stuff they're talking about, but that's what I thought weapons of mass destruction meant. I thought it was a code word. That was the other thing that fascinated me, was the codes. They had all these codes, right? But I just, to think that they could be that out of, like, not know what they were risking. She kept talking about risk, and being confident, even though they weren't confident about some of the stuff that they were attempting to do. So that tension, if you had to live with that tension and go to sleep with that every night, I think that would, no wonder they lie. No wonder they have to lie.
And the other, Jane Ann, and the other list that they shared at the end that they couldn't keep track of, which are also considered to be weapons of mass destruction, I think, are all of the biological and chemical warfare things, right? So a lot of that stuff as well. I have a question for you guys too. If you were writing stuff down and keeping track of all this, did you do that with the first code message that Anahita got? Did you do that?
That's where I started turning the pages down. Was the first code. Yeah.
Yeah, because what did you automatically think when you saw that code? Did you think, oh, this is significant? Or did you guys all think that?
It was significant because it was written, right? Like it was obviously going to be the backbone of the book, but like I didn't try to figure it out or anything.
Because she was trying to get it to the Secretary of Defense or whatever. So she tried so
She
hard.
obviously
Can I
thought it
just
was
jump in for a
significant,
second?
So
Does anybody here
Sure.
watch Rachel on MSNBC?
Rachel Maddow, yeah.
Yeah. So at 9 o'clock, which is half an hour from here where I am, she's got Hillary on.
Oh. What
So-
channel is it on, Glenda?
MSNBC.
Oh, tonight she has Hillary on?
Yeah.
pull it up on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sure
Joby,
there'll be
did you
some
hear that?
conversation.
Are we all looking it up now?
Yeah.
No.
Get on that, Joe.
But what's the program called?
Joe's always in charge of recording, keeping recording going.
I
So.
got mine all set to pick it up, so yeah. And I also saw the two of them on The View last month,
Yes.
and that was an excellent interview as well.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, the two of them,
That's
Hillary and
There's something I'm trying to
Sorry,
think of.
Glenda, I missed what the program is.
Rachel Maddow on MSNBC.
She's a reporter, Jane Ann, who is wonderful. and a favorite. But she does, so apparently it's 8:30 for you, so 9 o'clock her show comes on. And it's just, I'm not sure you get
Yeah, it's 9
MSNBC
o'clock,
in
yeah.
Canada, so.
Yeah, I do.
You do, but I think you have to, do you get it, Shannon? You get MSNBC? Okay.
Yeah,
She'll be
yeah.
on, so if you just, whatever channel MSNBC is on for you, at 9 o'clock, it'll be the Rachel Maddow Show. I think it's TRMS, right?
Yeah, it
Rachel
is.
Maddow
Yeah,
Show.
yeah.
9
Joby, you're
o'clock.
right. You're right. Joby, it doesn't come on standing cable. You have to specially request it in your.
Yeah, it was one of my most
for,
frustrating things of living in Canada for 15 years, Glenda. Was not having.
Yep, I get
MSNBC.
that. Yep.
So in this book, what kind of emotions did you have as you were going through this book?
You won't
I
like what
pretty
I'm.
much,
Go
I'm not
ahead.
there yet. I haven't read it all, but I've covered the whole gamut. I mean, humor and fear and anxiety.
I think the thing that I think one of the things that I mentioned to Mandy was, you know, in any other book, if we were reading about the Secretary of State or the Director of National Intelligence or the Chief of Staff to the President, it would all be he. And in this case, it was all women and the exceptions were the guys. And so usually the female pronoun, you can track pretty easily the couple of characters that it belong to the female pronoun, but even the Special Ops Assault Platoon commander was a female captain. And so it was neat to be in that world for a minute, you know, where the women are just as much running the show. You know, we did have the last time that a president brought a cabinet member across the aisle was under Bill Clinton when he appointed Cohen, who was a Republican, to be Secretary of Defense. Nowadays, that would kill a career, right? It pretty much killed Cohen that he worked for a Democratic president. But now it just wouldn't even be considered. You know, Mitch McConnell as the Secretary of Defense under Joe Biden, I don't think so, you know. So, right. But a lot of the stuff that was in there just tracked with reality. For example, I trained to do the nuclear inspections in Iraq, and I never got to do one because Saddam Hussein pulled us out of that treaty. And so I know what goes into, you know, when you're looking for nuclear weapons in compliance with the treaty, I know what goes into that. And, you know, the fact that Donald Trump pulled us out of, I'm trying to remember the name. There's a book by the woman who was under John Kerry, who negotiated the Iran nuclear deal. And she was in the Clinton administration in the Defense Department. But I mean, the point is that all that stuff tracked with reality. And I think that's the scary part. Nobody made up the fact that there are UN inspectors who are being shut out of inspecting nuclear facilities, you know. So, you know, the 3 nuclear bombs and the countdown and all that, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to come in at the last 3 seconds. They're going to, you know, neutralize the bomb in the last 3 seconds.
Pretty
But
traumatic.
it makes a good read and a good action. I'm sure this will be turned into a movie. It would be a great one. But
So Edie, so you, even though were terrified through that and it made you scared because of a lot of the things that were going on that could be so realistic, you also had some positive emotions, or you know, you applauded and were having positive feelings about the fact that there were a lot of women characters in here doing some of those roles. I felt the same way. I mean, I'm like, wow, look at that. You know, I mean, there's a woman doing that. And I especially was the same thing with the assault captain, you know, that was pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
So especially for special ops.
You know, I don't know if there's a mixed message there, like the guys got us into this shit. If we're gonna get our asses out of it, we gotta put some more women
Ah,
in. You know, because women have been so systematically culled out of those professions, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's fun for me to read because it was like a lot of what I had known and experienced and recognized a lot of it. But it's just a scary reality that it wouldn't take a whole lot for a dirty bomb to go off someplace. And it wouldn't, you know, I mean,
Right.
we've seen, you know, we saw a guy try to put one in his shoe and another guy try to put one in his underwear or whatever.
But what about the impact of politics on the armed services? Do you really think that, like at the Pentagon, when it switched from Republican to Democrat, did it have a major impact over there? I thought that was separate.
It is. I mean, my experience was that at the senior leadership, at least visibly, they were able to keep their political druthers out of it. But at the very top, tippity top, they are, you know, this cabinet secretary, they're political appointees, and they do have a slew of political appointees. And when I was working at the Secretary of Defense's office, there was this guy he was a special advisor or special counselor, I think, to the Secretary of Defense. And he was just the nicest guy and very smart. I couldn't figure out where is he in the chain of command. And so it would have been like Betsy's role. So there really actually is, you know, you could pick somebody to be your confidant and your close person or whatever. So those are political appointees. And so the military part, you know, it's kind of sacred to stay apolitical.
Yeah, at least in your job, right? Because that's the whole role, is that you're sworn to support and defend, you know, the Constitution of the United States and be loyal to whoever the office of the president and so on and so forth. So it has nothing to do with who's in office. It has everything to do with you know, the office itself.
Yeah, you don't, when you swear your oath, it's to, and in the military, it's to the Constitution of the United States. You know,
do you think that there could be that secret society or whatever it was that was trying to overthrow the government and everything? Do you think they keep a secret like that?
You know, when they start talking about something past the dark web, I'm like, I can't even conceive of the dark web. So when you go past the dark web, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess that's just the writer's tactic for, we got to throw this someplace where all these smart people would not have found it.
I interpreted that to be like a reference to the whole Q thing. Not that it's actually real, but that it was planted to make idiots think it's real. And so that's what I saw that as.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kristen.
Yeah.
I think you're right. That's how I saw
I've always thought that was a ploy to count the idiots.
Yes.
It might be.
At least then they put their hand up, you know, like then you know you got them.
Idiots per capita. Yeah. There is that, I don't know anything about it, maybe one of you guys does, but there is that right-wing religious undercurrent, that they have their own little dorm on Capitol Hill. And
They have a dorm?
yeah, there's this one big house that there's a movie about it. I can't remember, but it's true that there's this group of very right-wing Christian evangelical, you know, and they do the prayer groups and the whole bit, and they you know, they're what you think they are: anti-choice, anti-gay, anti-LGBT, you know.
Did they,
You know,
did they join the group to go out and welcome JFK home?
Maybe they were there, I don't know, but that is
there's
real. I don't know if they're smart enough for some of that other stuff.
On page 451, one of the, and I think it's where the title comes from. It said, driven by fear of another attack in a state of terror. It said, given the choice between bedlam and dictatorship, who do you think the American people will choose? Driven by fear of another attack, and in a state of terror, they'll do the terrorists' work for them.
Mhm.
They'll destroy their own freedom, accept, even applaud the suspension of rights, internment camps, torture, expulsions, the liberal agenda, women's equality, gay marriage, immigrants will be blamed for the death of real America. But thanks to the bold action of a particular few, which I think is what you're referring to, Edie, the white Anglo-Saxon Christian God-fearing America of their grandparents will be restored. And even if they have to slaughter a few thousand to achieve it, well, it's war after all. I thought that was a
100%
very
Donald Trump's agenda.
Yeah.
What's
In a
that?
Yeah.
nutshell.
Yeah. So was
In a
the,
nutshell. Yeah.
so that's why I wanted to know who the Shaw was. Trump was obvious. I mean, he seemed to be the person they were seeing in Palm Beach, but who was the Shaw as a character?
Well, I think the idea is making him an arms dealer, and arms dealer plays all sides, right?
Yeah.
So for their own gain and their own power, it really all comes down to power, because you can only use so much
It was
money.
probably Trump's best friend.
Yeah.
Well, it was like a, you know, some bin Laden or something like that, but you know, some character like that, but you know, a little bit different because of the whole arms thing.
The Saudis maybe, because they play both sides of us.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
they had the attackers on 9/11, but they own 5% of the United States gross national product, and the Bushes were really cozy with the Saudis. So,
Yeah.
you know, and with a name like Shah. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so it could be a statement on that. I can't remember if I ever saw. Well, you know, what amazes me is the, you know, the ability, what the characters showed about how you have to be. You can't react to the initial thing. You have to figure out. It's like chess. You got to figure out. Okay, I can't be offended by the fact that I got to go in a burqa. What can I use it to my advantage? You know, and
Yeah. So they're always thinking, it is always the diplomatic kind of stuff going on in their heads of how they're supposed to respond to the other people, right? Yeah.
Because there's two ends of a situation, but there's a whole lot of middle.
Yeah.
I've actually
Did
always
anybody-
thought, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I just have a question. I actually always thought that Pakistan was a lot more powerful, and because it had all the borders, right? It borders Russia, it borders Afghanistan, it borders everything by the shape of it, I guess. But you don't hear it talked about at all in American politics. You just don't hear it. So the fact that so much of this was taking place in Pakistan surprised me, actually.
Well, aren't they
I
pretty
forgot what
cozy
my
up with
question
the
was.
Afghanistan stuff?
What's that?
I
They're
thought they
they're
were
cozy
pretty
with the
much
terrorists.
first cousins with Afghanistan, and I mean, that's
And
where
the
that's where they got bin Laden. He was in Pakistan when they
Mhm.
found him. So, I mean, they're certainly not anti-Iranian or Afghani.
But
They're all
I-
in bed together.
They're chattering.
I just had to look at a map.
Grew up thinking that Pakistan was one of our allies, which I thought that was like,
Depends. Sometimes they are, and then
I
other
think they were-
times they're
Yeah.
not.
Supposed to have been
Yes.
until it was found out that they were hiding or helping to hide or knowingly giving shelter.
Yeah.
they let us have bases there for a long time. I've lost track. I don't know if we still do or not.
So let me ask you, Mary Beth, did you read the whole book? Zero?
Yes, I have not read
So
the
you're
book. I'm just listening.
okay, so you're
in.
just listening in to kind of, oh, cool.
She said
Awesome.
that in the
Well, if you have
chat.
anything you want to jump in and say, because it's obvious we're not just talking about the book, you know, jump in if you want to.
Mhm.
Always a few bunny
I wanted
trails
to
with
ask
this book, Mary Beth.
about the book. Did anyone?
What?
Yeah, that's true.
I just said there's always a few
Joey
bunny
said there's a
trails
few
with you
bunny
guys.
trails.
So jump on a bunny
No.
trail,
All
Mary Beth.
right. So did anybody think that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs was the real traitor when you heard that he was the traitor? Or what did you think then?
Was
Williams?
that Whitehead or whatever his name was?
Yes.
No.
I mean, I was following the story the way it was said to me, and so I was like, no, not the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So I was like, okay, that's a little out there, but this is a novel. It's not, the real world. And then, it came around that, I don't know, that I think they overdid it in piecing a lot of those little pieces, all of those little bitty pieces that came together at the end.
Yeah, the woman who was his assistant, Rauschauer, I forget what her name is.
Benhauser or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chief of staff of the White House. I kind of was suspecting her from the start because she would be inconspicuous,
And she seemed like she was always around during all of the stuff that when they
Like
were looking
hovering.
at all the.
She was hovering in the
stuff like that,
background.
Yeah, just hovering. Yeah, exactly.
Buying on
Yeah.
Betsy.
They'd already made mention that the other guy, Tim, whatever, that he was set to leave the country and his family was out of state and the White House's family was present. So at that point, I was like, okay, it's obviously not him. And then a few pages later, they accused him of it. And I got annoyed. I was like, what kind of bullshit is this book trying to pull? There's no way it's him. And it like bothered me. And then this is a really bad reason, but I glanced down to see how far along in the book I was because I was reading on a Kindle and I'm like, oh, this is totally a fake, a red herring because it's too early in the book. They can't possibly have the right guy yet. So it's got to be fake based on how far I am in the book. Just so that's
Christian.
And that his
Kristen,
dog's
don't-
name is
Kristen-
Pine.
Yes.
His dog's name is
so
Pine.
this is why I don't read a
Kristen,
lot of
don't you hate-
mysteries
don't you-
because that's my method of
don't you
solving
hate
it.
it when
How
they-
far in the book am I?
Don't
Hold
you
on,
hate it when
Kristen,
they
she's
write the
asking you a
book wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But they were talking about deflection all the way through, so it became easier to look
Yeah.
at all the deflections than the real thing, which I guess was the ploy, right?
I think that was
Yeah.
Louise Penny's normal plot, the way she does.
I think what wasn't clear to me was whether or not the characters actually believed he was guilty or if the
Mhm.
characters knew all along. And oh no, I guess they didn't because it did come out because they had to piece together what he meant when he said about I did my part. So I think they did not know when
Right.
they accused him. I think she actually thought it was him.
Yeah.
And
She
then
did. Yeah.
it wasn't clear to me like
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny when he was like, it's me, blah, blah, blah. And then the woman is like, you're not part of the group.
yeah, I was like, what? I'm not so
kinda-
much sure like when they figured it out because
Yeah, it got a little comical after that. 'Cause
yeah.
it was like,
All of
okay.
the hints that would let you as the reader know it was not him came before they accused him. But then the way it unravels at the end, I think they thought I think they did accuse him. Like they fell for the framing initially. So at some point they figured it out.
But the president still wanted him in his room. He still wanted him there.
Mhm.
I think the thing that I felt was probably about the same thing you did. He's like, no way, come on, no, let's not accuse the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He's a good guy,
He loves his country.
Not
Well-
Fred McMurray.
The terrorist
Yeah,
part
really.
is that they all love their country. They all claim.
You're right.
Oh,
That's absolutely right, Jane Ann.
Yeah.
It's absolutely right. Yeah.
That's what she said.
Everybody
to
loves
Donald Trump.
they love their
guy.
country, but they all have different perspectives on what that means,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And what it should look like. Absolutely.
yeah.
So who did you resonate with?
None of them.
What character?
Mandy said she's going to take the special ops captain.
Good for you. Because she knew they were all going to die, but she was going to stay there and do it anyway, you know, do her job. You know, that was a big deal.
But yeah, that's, I mean,
Edie's
yeah.
Hillary.
I like Betsy. And I wouldn't say I
yeah.
resonated with her so much, but
Yeah.
I did like
I'd
how
say
she
Betsy.
too, in a much less official way, was just as loyal and patriotic and determined to get to the bottom of it in her own sort of dealing with the Hamilton guy, and everybody that she dealt with got knocked off except for her. But that,
Yeah, Betsy.
was-
Yeah. Mhm.
I think what I liked about that also was I liked the Betsy character a lot, and I liked the intimacy of those two kind of showed together the best aspects of women as leaders, but women as collaborators. You know, that you know, so many advisors tell the boss what they want to hear, not what they need to hear, you know, and I guess that's why you got to pull in somebody trusted for that kind of a job in real life, you know. And I can't tell you the number of times I sat and I would sit in briefings to the chief of staff of the Air Force, and all sounded great. And then I would talk to the briefers in the hallway, and they're like, oh yeah, that launch, you know, I had to brief that it went well, but it was really a clusterfuck, you know, that rocket launch or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. So the people in power have to understand that people that come to them are going to tell them what they think they want to hear. And of course, for a guy like Trump, that's what he wants.
Yeah.
He wants people to
Yeah.
come and tell him
Yeah.
what he wants to hear. But, you know, the Secretary of State in this position, you know, she's coming from business. If you don't tell me the way things really are, that's money, right? But she's also in journalism, which is a different kind of business. And so she understands the value of truth, both in order to make good decisions, but in order to secure democracy as well.
I liked, you mentioned this about them both being good examples of women in leadership positions, but I really like the way she anticipated the assumptions that would be made and used them in her favor, to the point of like, you know, I think like the Hollywood view is the seductress who gets things done. And instead she's like, no, you know what? I'm not going to freshen up, and they're going to underestimate me. And then I'll show them that I actually have a brain. And like, that was a strategy. And I appreciated that. And, you know, she was like, I'm not going to be a shiny penny. I'm just going to be a smart woman. And I like that part of the characters, both women, to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did kind of bring to it was like always making a point, wasn't it? That that's the expectation, is that you come in with a pretty face, and that's what's expected of women. And so
I do think,
if they
you know,
don't
in the
show
real
up that
world,
way, yeah.
In the real world, Hillary Clinton got a lot of shit for like her pantsuits and the style of her hair, and if she was starting to look frumpy or not. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then you put in, pardon me, you know, you put in somebody like Donald Trump in afterwards, and like, that's acceptable somehow. Like, give me a break. Like,
Donald Trump,
you know,
she has a
not
smirk?
saying that male or female has to be attractive, but the double standard of it not mattering for men in the public eye, and it mattering so much, you know, specifically for Hillary Clinton as a candidate, and what she went through.
Why don't they have to wear makeup?
Yeah.
I always used to wear makeup, and now I'm like, I'm not wearing makeup. Tired of it. I'm old enough.
Oh God.
Don't you think she has a smirk
or
in this
Janet?
photo?
Mhm.
Don't you think she has a smirk in this
Hey, or
photo?
Janet,
Yeah,
do you have anything to say?
I'd agree with you.
What were we gonna say? Sorry.
I was just saying if Kay or Janice had anything that they wanted to jump in here with, we've been, you know.
I only finished half of the book because
Oh,
I had to start it over about 5 times. I could not get into that book until about the 4th or 5th chapter. And the bombs started going off and all that. But I was like some of y'all talked about the characters. I had to keep going back and figure out the characters. And I read books on, audio books. So I don't have the physical book to look at, but which is a little bit of a disadvantage. But really it was difficult to get into and interested in, because I don't know, it's just the way they started it off, I guess. Usually I get into books pretty easy, but that one was really hard. And
yeah, I
once
can
it-
imagine,
you know,
Janice,
once it
if
got
you're
going.
trying to do it, yeah, if you're trying to do it audio, man, I can't even, I mean, I couldn't hardly keep up with the different characters and the different situations, and I had it in front of me and I was going back and forth looking at stuff too. If you're trying to do it in audio, I'm like, oh my God, I would never have been able to keep up with that. You know, there's no
Yeah,
way.
That was the problem.
But,
So I'm still reading it,
yeah.
but I intend to finish it. I'm happy to hear some of this kind of, maybe it'll keep me more attached, and figure out things.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good book. I just haven't finished it.
I've never
Yeah.
paid enough attention to characters' names. That always is a problem for me. I've always had to go back, and I've just recently started telling myself, now register this name, so when they say it again, you know who they're talking about.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff sounded
What about
very
you, Kay?
familiar. I guess
Well,
I was trying to place what really has happened in Hillary's life to bring this about, and where it stands in history. I was trying to kind of
Sure.
place some of that. Maybe that was an
Sure.
effort I didn't even need to go to, but I know that a lot of this came out of her experiences, and she just mixed them all up because of the fact that, she didn't want to tell her story line by line, but I guess I was spending a lot of time trying to figure that out too.
Well, it's an interesting point, Janice, because so for example, as I was reading, it's real world that we negotiated a nuclear deal with Iran, and it's real world that Donald Trump pulled out of that. But what people don't understand, they're just like, oh, it's just diplomacy. They don't understand the real world implications of, oh, so what, Donald Trump pulled out of the Trump deal, Donald Trump pulled out of this treaty, Donald Trump pulled out of that. If you're in diplomacy or in defense, you understand the fallout from that, but the average voter, I don't think does. And would you still vote for Donald Trump if you thought he was going to bring us closer to World War III?
I think there are those who will. I mean,
Well, exactly.
with that knowledge, with that intent.
and I confess that I have had to go through the thought process of, if things got so bad in the United States that it came to civil war, could I point a gun at the people that I know that support Donald Trump and the people that put a Confederate flag in the back of their pickup truck? And then I start to understand the U.S. Civil War a little bit better, because could I do that? Could I point a gun at somebody that I otherwise like, but they're a traitor to the Constitution of the United States?
Oh, yeah, I could. I'll do it in a second.
Could your baby daddy? You could shoot your baby daddy?
I already got what I need. I got that's all I need.
Yeah, I can kill him. I got the kid.
My baby daddy would be one of them, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so that is frightening. So the stuff in the book that's real, and the fact that she's just kind of gently trying to point out, this is why this thing is important.
And I
this
think
is why it's important to have a competent president.
I totally believe that's what the book was about, was for.
Yeah.
The intent of the book.
But Janice, Mandy had that same problem, and I just kind of had to stick with it. I thought, I know these names will stick for me if I just stick with it, because the first few chapters for me were, okay, I'm having a hard time following, these people, and
Yeah.
Mandy had to kind of overcome that too. And yeah, if you got to it by chapter 4 or 5, I think you caught on a little more quickly than I did. It took me more in the third of the book, but yeah, that could have been smoother.
It seems.
What did you think, Kay? Okay.
Well, I have to say that when they were digging in Tim's computer and it came up being Whitehead, it was like, part of me was like, come on, people. Why wouldn't they plant somebody else, as a way to, because, just to get it, having us go in different directions. It's like, come on now, let's pay attention here. Well, if you've had to look this deep for it, why wouldn't it be something that's not true? So.
Mhm.
Yep. So you caught on.
Well, kind of, but I'm still going on with the story because that, the actions they took would indicate that it was him, but
Yeah.
they didn't actually identify the general per se until the very end when he was in there and holding a gun on him. But they
Right.
did all of that to, have the two fools
Right.
confess what they had done, and it's like, oh, good, let's tie you up now.
Yeah.
I'm watching a series on Netflix right now. It's called The Man in the High Castle.
Ooh.
Have you watched it? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. It's like, it really makes you think. And
It gets a little weird further in, but push all the way through.
yeah, well, I'm in season 4. But what I thought was odd is that it really did make me grateful for the United States as it stands, even though there's all this chaos. Like, I've been hearing a lot about this smash and grab thing. And I think, the more we have the haves and the have-nots, the worse that's going to happen. I mean, I'm studying history and civilizations and how they end up dying. It's because of where we are right now. Like, there's so many people who have the perception that they don't have a chance.
Kelly, you're muted.
What's she do?
You're on mute now.
Not the whole time I wasn't.
No, you just cut
no.
yourself off.
Okay,
No.
I was gonna say, I was going on and on. But I don't like that haves and have-nots. Ever since there was a guy I met when I was working who was an accountant, he was a Black guy, and he had grown up in the slums of San Antonio, and his mom got Section 8 housing over in a ritzy area. And he was a basketball star, and he's fairly good looking. And he said, I never in my life thought that there was another life for me until I went to that school and I saw other people and realized that I could do the same thing they're doing, It really made me think, because before that, I always thought those people who didn't try, they just, well, go get, there's plenty of college money out there, go get it, But the rest of his family was still that way. All his brothers and sisters, he was the head of the family. He did all the taxes.
Yep.
He solved everyone's problems, Sorry. Went on my
That's okay.
soapbox.
We go down bunny trails. We go down bunny trails. We know. So then,
And I guess
I want to know if there's any last comments, and I know you probably have something, Edie, but we need to start looking at the possibility of reading another book. So go, Edie.
Oh, I was just going to say, Kelly, your point's perfectly valid, because if somebody wants to damage the U.S., I mean, you know, we were occupiers for 20 years, and occupiers get old after about 6 months. So we were 19 and a half years overdue to leave. So we were occupiers for 20 years. And so the people who want to do damage to us look for that division, and they just want to, you know, pull at it. Because so our dilemma is that democracy, our capitalist democracy, is founded on this principle of, if the wealthy are wealthy, they'll be paying the workers. The workers will be fine, you know. Whereas, you know, the Democratic Party is the party of trickle down. You know, that sounds great, but trickle down doesn't work. And so we want, and so on the for the Democrats, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? But for the Republicans, no, the whole idea of democracy is power and money, and you know, those things don't always work well. So it's a dilemma of democracy.
Well, I guess when I first went to work, I worked in small time. They were going to give me a raise or anything. It was going to take money out of their pocket. And so I said, no, I will never work in this kind of situation again. But it's the same as you go up the big companies, you know, like the big wigs get all their bonuses and all that stuff. And, you know.
So that, you know, Ben and Jerry's, I remember that was one of the things that was famous about that company. They said the highest paid person will never make more than 7 times the lowest paid person.
Good.
So we're even at the top of the scale. If I want to increase production, I want to decrease my costs of production, and even if that includes paying my people less, you know. So anyway.
In 1980, when Ronald Reagan took office, the average CEO made 25 times what the average worker made. When Ronald Reagan left office, the average CEO made 125 times what the average worker made. And it's much worse than that now.
Wow.
Much more of the
Is
spirit.
anybody ever going to make a movie about the real Ronald Reagan years?
Don't
I
know.
mean, he's still held on this pedestal. It's so interesting looking out from the outside.
He's not held on pedestal by anyone in the AIDS community, anyone touched by AIDS in the United States.
No.
He killed people straight up killed them. So a lot of the Teflon president is just not, back then, it just, this stuff isn't dug up. It's not public, you know, just like with Kennedy, he's too close to that. When was it? When Clinton was probably the turning point of nothing is private anymore, you know, as far as president, and nothing is off limits as far as what the public would do or media to try and destroy. But yeah, Reagan, tough in that area, Linda.
Yeah.
I love hearing you.
And Joby?
Yes, honey.
I mean, we can go on if you guys want to. I just want to make sure that we get to a point where we decide to look at a new book.
Can I just ask one more political question?
One more comment. Go for it, Glenda.
I drove from Ottawa back to Toronto yesterday, and I had my Sirius satellite radio on, and they were telling me that the president has asked the gentleman to remain in the federal reserve chair.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a popular direction?
What does that mean?
So
Like
he's a Republican.
Jerome Powell, yeah, he was a Republican appointee. So the Fed is a weird thing. It's the head of it's appointed, but the other members of the board, the Fed has enough members at the table that the head of the Fed, as long as they're a competent economist, is probably not going to swing wildly toward the right or wildly toward the left. So as long as they're demonstrating competence, I don't know enough about Jerome Powell. I don't think he was like a Trump loyalist or anything like that. But yeah, so the Fed is this weird thing that it's really a private bank, but it runs the U.S. economy. So it can't be driven by politics for that very reason. Because
Jane Ann, it's like the head of the Bank of Canada.
I just know what reserve, like the bank reserve. I get it now. Okay, thank you.
So the big controversy about Powell is around inflation.
Yes,
Inflation is much worse in the last 6 to 9 months, the last 2 to 3 quarters. And it's usually the chair of the Federal Reserve that's kind of the chief inflation fighter. So that's going to be, you know, if inflation continues to be a problem, that decision by Biden is going to be criticized heavily.
the other thing the Biden administration has going for it is Janet Yellen, who was the Fed chair. She's now the Secretary of the Treasury. So.
Okay, thank you. Continue, Cheryl.
Okay, so what about another book? We're not going to have a meeting in January, right? So you're going to wait all the way until January 25th. So we've got about 2 months. Of course, we have holidays, but we have about 2 months to read this book that we're going to decide on now.
So,
right?
Yeah, Joby put some in the chat. Where'd those come from?
Kristen, we can't hear you.
Yeah, Joby, where'd those come from? From your committee, right?
Yeah, I host, as you can imagine, a monthly conversation with my college roommates, and they are voracious readers. Two of them have come to this before. I think Sharon and Christy have been either in book club or part of Sanctuary. But they just always chat. What are you reading? What are you reading right now? And three that came up was, one is We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker. I have no notes on that one. The second one I thought was very cool was it's called Personal Librarian, and it's the story of the personal librarian of J.P. Morgan, who was a Black woman who was passing, as a white woman. And then the Rose Code was about women breaking code for the British. So that's all the notes I have. But I just wanted to start your conversation up. You might have other. What, Kelly?
What does that mean, breaking code? Like deciphering code?
Yeah, probably deciphering code. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can pull them up as we talk.
That really sounds interesting to me, personal librarian. What was the other one?
Rose Code.
They begin at the end, personal librarian, or the Rose Code.
No, you guys can have more.
Someone I know is reading the Rose Code.
The Rose Code sounds good. I like.
Personal librarians
Sounds like a
getting.
lot
I
of
like the idea of the personal librarian as well.
Personal librarian is inspired by true events. The story of Belle Lacosta Green, personal librarian to J.P. Morgan, one of the most powerful men of the early 20th century. You just read a book about powerful women. It might be interesting to read about powerful men. The Rose Code.
So it looks like We Begin at the End is a crime novel.
Getting 4.5 stars. The Rose Code tells the story of female code breakers at Bletchley Park and their top secret jobs. The story revolves around 3 characters. And I'm waiting for more to come up.
It's 1940. I think you're reading the same thing I'm reading. A vivacious debutante.
So if you
The girl who has everything, beauty, wealth, and the dashing Prince Philip of Greece sending her roses. But she burns to prove herself as more than a society girl. She puts her fluent German to use to translate her decoded enemy's secrets. Impervious, self-made mob. Product of East and in London poverty, works the legendary code-breaking machines as she conceals old wounds and looks for a socially advantageous husband. Both Osla and Mab are quick to see the potential in local village spinster Beth, whose shyness can
Talking about him.
Most of it was good.
You walking around us while we were gone?
Yes.
How much we miss
I told them your
you.
secrets.
We begin.
Oh, you did? Oh.
And
So that one that you called the librarian, so J.P. Morgan was one of the big industrialists at the turn of the century. And if you're interested in that question about how did we get where we are in terms of the wealthy, the haves and the have-nots, that's where it starts. And he was a pretty ruthless guy. So it'd be interesting. It'd be, I wonder if it's like reading, she's negotiating her position as a librarian, the way our Secretary of State had negotiated her stance, but in real life. So that one sounds, I mean, that book sounds kind of interesting to me, just because, you know, what basically we're reaping right now in the climate change, what the Industrial Revolution had sown. And to read about the social climate of that time might be interesting, just for what it's worth.
So Edie, you're referring to the personal librarian, right?
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I
Okay.
think I'm leaning toward that one.
I don't know anything about the book. I just kind of know about the era, and that's what makes it sound interesting to me.
Okay.
The Bletchley Park stuff is interesting. I mean, that sounds interesting if you like the World War II and the Enigma and the computerized code breaking, and because women were the mathematicians for the Manhattan Project, for the Bletchley Project, very
figures.
and very unsung in what they
Yeah,
did.
Hidden Figures, you're right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I read the synopsis.
Joby,
of-
can you put together a little poll or something? Are we going to do a hand raise, or how are we going to do this?
Jane Ann also brought forward a fourth topic.
Oh, I'm just
Yeah,
throwing
yeah.
stuff out
Which
there.
was?
So you want to keep it American, right?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't have to be American.
No, definitely not.
The last one was half
Definitely
Canadian, there were
not,
moose
right.
in it.
I like the sound of the personal librarian. You hear about white people trying to be black, but you don't hear of black people trying to disguise themselves as white.
Well,
I
in the
heard-
time period, right? That's what they
Yeah.
were trying to pass.
Passing, yeah.
I heard
Yeah.
something about a story like that recently, but I'm
Yeah.
not connecting it with the title. It might be though.
There's some new movie about somebody
Yeah,
who was trying to pass, but I can't remember the name of it.
I
yeah.
just watched one on, was it called Passing?
Yes,
think you're
yes,
right.
yes, it was.
One called Passing. I just watched that. It's kind of it's kind of slow, but it's interesting, and it's definitely time period.
I just wonder the librarian, if there'll be a lot of history in there, or if it'll all focus on her trying to pass.
I think it's based on the true story, so it should have historical context. I had that up and I just lost my window. Trying to switch back and forth between the summaries.
How about if we do this? How about if we think, and then you get to vote one time for the one you
Mandy's
put.
wondering when we're gonna do a scratch and sniff.
The scratch and sniff book?
Or
Oh, I have a good one, the Christmas book. It's a good scratch and sniff.
No, and you've seen Barbara's made a comment there that there's a Netflix series called Bletchley Park about the code breaker women. That would be kind of cool to watch and watch and
I
read.
think it might actually be in my queue now that she says that.
Okay, so it sounds like you're,
There's a,
we begin at the end has few votes because I didn't talk about what it was, so let's just blow that one off. And you're either gonna choose personal librarian or you're gonna choose the Rose Code.
Kristen's,
Okay, so,
Okay.
I think she's in New Jersey.
I know, hold on, honey. Rose Code. So I'm gonna go from, in my order on my.
I can't decide.
Okay, so Edie, choose,
Interview's fixing to start.
pardon? Edie, would you like personal
Can't we just
librarian?
raise our hands or something?
No, honey, I've got this figured out, okay? Dear God, Edie, would you like personal librarian or the Rose Code?
Edie, I think wants to go with a personal librarian. I'm just reading. It's the New York Times bestseller. I just pulled up a description.
Thank you.
I'm going for the librarian.
Me
Okay,
too.
Kelly, personal
too.
librarian or the Rose Code?
Librarian.
The book's on the TV.
Jane Ann,
What?
personal librarian or the Rose Code?
The librarian, the personal librarian.
I feel like Survivor, 3 votes this, no votes this. Kristen, personal librarian or the Rose Code?
Librarian. Personal
Janice.
librarian.
Janice,
Personal librarian.
and the next person voted off the island is the Rose Code because no matter if the rest of you voted for it, it wouldn't quite make it. Glenda, where are you?
Same.
Personal librarian?
Librarian.
Okay,
The librarian.
Mary Beth, you want to read the Rose Code? Nobody else.
Not for
All right, your January book is the
Her
Rose
father's
Code.
the,
Just kidding. I'm just
Rose
kidding.
Code.
What?
No, it might be February.
No.
January's book is the Rose Code. So enjoy. You have
her
2 months.
father, her original father was.
Is the personal librarian.
Librarian.
I keep saying the wrong thing. I'm so tired. I'm so
Yes.
tired.
You're
Oh, she was being serious. She needs sleep.
You need to sleep, Joe.
And some milk. You got milk?
No, I don't drink milk. The sides of my
I have a
body
question.
are so sore from carrying, what is that called, Cheryl? The leaf blower. I've been
I have a
vibrated for like
question.
16
Someone said
hours.
there was a net-
Jane Ann, question?
Someone said there was a Netflix series called Bletchley Park. Is that's what the series is? And someone's watching it?
Yeah.
Barb said.
Okay, I
Barb-
want to look for
I
that.
think Barb pointed
Okay,
that out.
now,
Barb, can you unmute?
Yes,
What was
I-
the
I
name, what was the name of the Netflix series?
Right
I think it's
Bletchley
called Bletchley
Park.
Park. Let me
It's in the
look that up.
comments. It's in the chat.
Oh,
Oh, all right, let me go look in the chat.
Might make-
Hang on, but
Okay.
I'll look it up right now. I'll-
If you
I'll go
guys
on my
please
Please have
calendar
an
and look it
earthquake.
up.
What happened there?
If you were to watch that,
Just
might
have
make, you could do it for February's book. Might be very fun.
instead of reading the book.
mhm.
So do
Um,
I understand that Bletchley Park is the Rose Code story?
Yes.
Am I correct?
No, I
I'm
don't,
just-
I don't know that.
Well, it's based on the same
says it's
concept.
about the
I don't know
code
that the
breaker.
one story is
It's the
based on the
story of
other,
her.
but they're both based on the female code breakers that worked in
Yes.
Bletchley Park.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
thank you.
but the TV show is, they solve crimes.
Oh, I see, okay.
But we're
Oh,
reading the
that's
personal
not-
They use their
librarian.
code breaking skills.
Mhm.
And it may be Amazon Prime.
Thank
Hang
you,
on.
Kristen, for reminding us of what we're reading.
So
I
that
felt like we were going far away, Cheryl.
the personal
I
librarian.
appreciate you coming, bringing us back. Yeah, you know?
I thought I
Her
dialed the
dad.
wrong number there for a minute.
Her dad was the first Black graduate of
All
Harvard.
right, you guys.
I'm tired. I'm going to bed now. Bye, guys.
So what was the verdict?
Yeah. I see.
Something about
Are we reading the personal
phone.
librarian or?
We're reading
not reading the
personal
wrong
librarian.
Oh, don't
Yes.
say that again. Get her
I
out.
didn't-
So that's
I
the,
didn't know we
that's
got
the
into,
January book, right?
I
The
didn't know if we
January
got
book.
into
That's the
sanctuary
January book,
autocracy
yeah.
territory or not.
No book club in December.
I'm gonna
Okay.
read Debbie McComer's
club in
Christmas in
December.
Alaska. I love those books. They're all so sweet and everything. It's the perfect Christmas book.
That a Hallmark book?
Yes, it is.
It's like, oh, I just go settle in with Joe's mom and listen to all the Hallmark stories. That's all.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheryl
Thank
and,
you, you guys.
Okay,
That
I got
was,
Cheryl and Joby,
okay, I
invited
gotta
us
download
under
my
the
book.
sea
I tell
wall.
you what, to me, that State of Terror book kept me in a state of terror the whole time. So there you have it.
Yeah, it was on edge. Definitely on edge.
Definitely.
And
I know, I
now
didn't
you'll
sleep
feel like a
one night.
librarian.
Blessed Thanksgiving to the American.
Slowing it down,
Blessed,
slowing it down.
blessed U.S. Thanksgiving. Canadians already did theirs.
We did theirs. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I
Send
won't,
me
I
Merry
won't see you
Christmas.
next week. I won't see you next week. I won't be
Oh,
around
you're not
You
next
won't
coming?
see us
week.
next week?
Okay, send me pictures of
That's,
ornaments.
I actually, I'm going to arrive in Arizona next Tuesday night, so.
Wait,
Oh,
Carol,
nice.
say it, Brenda.
We're in Arizona. Where?
Thank you, just east of Phoenix.
Oh, cool. Good.
Be safe.
what
Brenda.
do you want for Tuesday? Ornament photos? What did you
Ornament
say?
photos, Kristen. Okay?
But does
Ornament,
it have to
okay.
be related to Hanukkah?
No.
No. No,
Okay.
they don't.
Cute.
All right, we're done here, you guys. This is, we're going.
I'm losing it. I gotta go to
Mary
bed.
Beth, do you love
Joby,
this?
close-
This is what we do.
close this out.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you
Hey.
a question?
Good night.
Can I break in just for a second, guys? I was a little bit off. First of all, it's not Netflix, it's Amazon Prime. And it's called The Bletchley Circle.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Close,
But
Barb. We're
if you've
tired
got
of
Amazon
tonight.
Prime, it's a good, fun show.
Okay,
Awesome.
can I ask a dumb
Thank
question?
you, guys. It's been
Are we
lovely.
reading?
Thank you for joining us, Mary
Wait,
Beth.
I think Jane has a
Maybe
real
you can
question.
do the
Janet's
next
been
one.
trying to ask her question for a long time.
Amen.
Jane Ann, you have a question.
Are
Oh,
we
good,
reading the personal librarian for the next time we meet?
January,
Yeah.
for January.
Yes.
For January, okay. Guess what? I can get it at the little library
right.
down the street.
Oh,
I'll
cool.
see you on Thursday, Cheryl and Joby. I guess you'll be there.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Real
Looking forward
life.
to that.
Where are they going?
Real life.
Where are they going?
Mhm.
All right.
Who is it who said they're coming to see you?
Janice.
Yeah,
Ah, lucky.
Good
Yeah.
night, everybody.
I'll be out at
Good night.
Hey, take care.
Good night.
Okay,
Good
we'll see
night.
you Friday, Kelly.
I'll
Good
see
night,
you
y'all.
Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Friday.
Turn it off.
Hi,
Yeah.
Janice. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Janice.
I'll see you on Thursday.
Yeah, see
Yeah.
you then. Night, night.
Be out there. See you later. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye, Barb.